there is an increased and growing recognition among corporates for and on the relevance of diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion. There are many arguments to promote DE&I, which we are hearing since morning. One, of course, is the business case. We also talked about how DE&I facilitates consumer-based expansion. We also heard about productivity argument. There is, of course, a human rights argument and a sustainability argument. So what is important is to know that what truly drives an organization to strive for diversity, equality, equity, and inclusion in the organization. So in today's session, that is what we are going to look at. But I think we'll also talk about what are the key drivers of change in an organization that puts DE&I at the core and center of any organization's business agenda. But also important is to look at that how it is measured and sustained. So really, what kind of organizational culture is being created and cultivated in an organization so that the agenda, the momentum that is created doesn't die down, and it doesn't about tokenism, but about real, true change. And finally, what is the accountability mechanisms that are put in place to make sure that the diversity, equality, and inclusion agenda is being implemented in full force? So with these questions, I'm very delighted to welcome our great lineup of panelists today who would be here to share with us their first-hand experiences on promoting diversity, equity, equality, and inclusion within their organizations. And Parmesh, I'll begin with you. My question to you is that why is a DE&I important to your organization? And how do you create safe spaces for employees within your organization to talk about DEI, to imbibe in them the principles of DE&I? And the third part is, how do your brands, which are the external face of your organization, are also creating and imbibing that values while they're creating their own stories?
So thank you, and while I was listening to you earlier, I was like, it's so interesting that we've never heard of, cases being need to be made for straight people or able-bodied people or men, but we need, while you listed those cases, we need to say, oh, queer inclusion or PWD inclusion or whatever, it's good for your brand, it makes you money, it increases innovation and yevo. But I've never read a single report that says that, having straight people in your organization is good for you, or catering to men makes you money, or this or that. So I think we're starting with the premise that it's really unfair that people who come from such large segments, or even maybe not, of the population, constantly have to justify our presence using various arguments, whereas the others can just basically be. And they don't need arguments for their existence. Having that as a basic premise, I think, at Godrej, where I work for years, since your first question was, why do we do it? It's, I think, and building on the previous panels as well, I think purpose is very important, right? There are so many organizations which are formed with a greater purpose. So Godrej, which was formed 125 years ago, and was very much part of the whole Swadeshi ethos and movement, was very much formed in this nationalistic way of trying to, create Indian entrepreneurship. So the purpose was very much about trying to help build and create a better India. And over the years, it's very hard for companies to survive for more than 100 years in general. And if you do, there's always a higher purpose that guides it. And we're lucky that there are many organizations in India which have that longevity as well. So inclusion is very much part of, say, our organization's values, as it should be for every other organization as well. It's also over the years, the group has realized, again, using all the cases that we've discussed, in great detail in the previous sessions as well, that it's a no-brainer when it comes to being inclusive as well. And, and we get this feedback all the time from our customers, from our potential employees, and so on. If our aim is to serve, and if our aim is, as corporates, we're sitting right now in the middle of this incredible, every day we hear of, stock markets going up and so on. But, if our aim is to the stock markets are going up on the premise that this country is going to flourish and prosper. We cannot flourish and prosper without all of our citizens, having employment, having jobs, living meaningful lives, having access to products and services that fulfill our need, and so on. So I think if we have to fulfill our manifest destiny and potential, all our organizations will have to kind of up our game and understand that we are doing this for all these reasons, but we're doing, it's just basic decency and it makes sense in every other way. Having said, again, as I said earlier, recognizing that we come to D&I from very unequal positions. So men don't have to argue, but women have to, even though women are 50%. Straight people don't have to argue, but queer people have to argue, and so on. Having said that, the way we worked within the group over the past decade to kind of build this momentum is through various levers. I think for anyone who's here working at an organization or an agency, senior leadership is very important as a lever. India continues to be hierarchical, as do most organizations, as do most other parts of the world. So while it may take years and years for an entire organization to change, who are the 50 most important people in this company that matter? They tend to be people with C in their title, so CEO, CMO, CFO, and so on. Go reach out to them and work with them, because when bosses say karna hai, suddenly everyone, falls in line. So one is work with senior leadership, because that really matters. The second thing what we've realized, and I'm trying, and it's still a work in progress, is what do people in business like most? They love money. So, how do we? Money. I mean, obviously, impact and awards are good, but money is amazing. So what we're trying to do is, how can we link people's compensation to them meeting very specific DI goals? So it's very nice for your organization to make nice videos, but, if we say that you as a senior leader need to have, you have 9% women in your team, and you really need to have 30% women, otherwise you're not getting a bonus, suddenly the women are hired, and it's the same for any dimension. Otherwise, before that, it's like, try karen, lekin talent milta hi nahi hai. We take your money away, suddenly mil jata hai. So it's very amazing. So I think another important lever is to use, take away people's money, because you have to figure out what works with them. And for people for whom money doesn't work, which is the small minority of people, we appeal to their emotions, we do whatever it takes. So if we know that someone is a parent, we will say, do you want to create, is this the world you want to create for your child? Maybe we'll record a video with their child and show it to them, and we'll do all kind of emotional whatever to get what we want to do. I think what has worked very well in the past few years is having spaces like the India Culture Lab and the Godrej DI Lab, which are in a sense playgrounds for inclusive ideas within the group. For those who don't know, these are experiment spaces that we've run within the group. And having that constant flow of people. For example, Vineet is here. Vineet is coming tomorrow, and we're doing a conference on PWD inclusivity in workplaces. But just for people in an organization to see this constant flow of people all the time who are different in so many ways, and flourishing and laughing and enjoying and having a great time, is also a very interesting driver, because as from your previous comment, it normalizes it as not something we do on specific days, but so to me, DI is a lens through which we have to live our lives and do everything. And so that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Parmesh. And also, I think bringing all of us to the point that it is a no-brainer, right? I mean, access to equal opportunities is the right of everyone. So it comes basically to the point of human rights argument that every individual, irrespective of he, she, it, they, whosoever, whether differently abled, have and should have equal access to opportunities. So thank you so much for that. But also, I think the two major key takeaways from your conversation is really about how it is important that senior leadership walks the talk. So if it is driven at the highest level, that agenda really translate. And of course, money argument was really, really important. Elizabeth, over to you. And you are somebody, a woman in financial services. How did this perspective of yours help you in designing the products in the organization? And also, if you could share light on your specific experiences in designing the silk offering in the organization.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with a question to the audience in the room, which I did a few days ago, and I was very encouraged by that. Of all the women here, how many of you do your own investing? Okay, that's a really staggering amount, and that's the change. So a few years ago, I'll tell you why I asked the question. A few years ago, we looked at some data, and it said 60% of Indian women, and you must really hear this, 60% of Indian women do not have a bank account or are not active users of one. Okay, so this data sort of blew us, said that this is really crazy. We need to bring women into formal financial services. And I'm going to ask, just tell the panel that I'm going to come to, overall inclusion a little later. This particular segment will be focused on women, right? So we said, now, how do we bring women into financial services and what is really the problem there? So a lot of research on the part of the firm. When we went and spoke to women, they said there were, areas of disinterest. I don't want to do this. My husband, brother, father, they're all better at it. I think that it's best that they handle it. I have so much more to handle. That was one of the things we heard, disinterest or somebody is better. The other thing is, I'm not good at it. I can't do it. I don't even think I want to attempt it. Very otherwise confident women holding really good positions in or not, educated, doing everything else for themselves, making decisions on practically every other aspect of life, will very happily relegate this aspect of their life. So the reasons ranged from disinterest to diffidence. So we recognize the problem really there. But what we also caught is if educated, the insight that we got is that if they're educated, they are willing to, adopt, learn, and actually, make that progress. So when we asked somewhere all of this, we said that if we actually, educated and created it, made it simple, how would you respond? They said that first, we don't like all the jargon. I mean, this may not be a gender issue, but still, I think we heard it from women that, I'm more interested in my daughter's future than a mutual fund. I'm more interested in my family holiday than a stock. So can you talk to me about goals which appeal to me rather than all of this, all these jargons which you talk about? Maybe that will create the interest. So that's also something we learned, which came to gender-sensitive banking. I think it's more gender-sensitive. Talking to women the way they want to or like to be spoken to. Everybody can be spoken to, in different ways. So I think there was a learning in, coming to something called gender-sensitive banking as well. So we learned all of this about our consumers, and then we learned that, of course, we all know, and there's so many of you and us in the room, they're natural savers, very good shoppers, judicious shoppers. So we designed this program called Silk around education being one of our key pillars. We have an Instagram community. We have something called, we have seminars called All Things Finance. And the Silk community is an active community where women discuss finances. We also have we have this aspect where we give a lot of seminars by many brilliant women across India who are experts in their field of, finances, taking loans, starting businesses, payments, all of that. So we have women doing that. And also then we have some basic video learning modules which teach you how to pay, which teach you how to make deposits, which actually teach you how to make your first investment. So basically, our foundation was education, because we realized that that is where, the penny will drop and something will change. So education was one big this thing. The second was making it attractive with competitive pricing, attractive pricing, and even sometimes preferential pricing to make you take that leap. That listen, we're really paying attention to you. We're talking to you in the way we want to be spoken to. We're making all the products very simple, services very simple to adopt, and making it that much more simpler for women. And then, of course, the fact that she is a saver, she is a spender, she does make payments all the time, and enabling all of that with very, very simple journeys. Today, of course, we have an online, very simple online journey where you can actually be digital, and from your home, the comfort of your time and home, you can actually open that gateway to joining formal financial services. So that is our experience on Silk in our organization.
Thank you. And we know that, how relevant it is to look at the products and services. And yours is a financial and banking sector. But irrespective, we see that the products are designed in a manner that they most of the times do not take care the need of women and other, genders as well. I was reading somewhere that a NASA crew who was all women crew couldn't take off because the costumes that were designed were not really meant for women to be worn, and because there were no costumes, they had to cancel the entire trip. So, to cut a long story short, really the idea is that we come with so much stereotypes around even the development of our products and services that most of the times they're not responsive to the needs of women and other gender identities. I come to you, Vineet, now, and you implement programs that work to integrate differently abled and neurodivergent individuals within organizations. What has been your experience in organizational openness and preparedness from a culture point of view in embracing diversity and inclusion? And what are the challenges and how do you feel they could be overcome?
No, I think a great question. I'm Vineet here, and my pronouns are he and him. And my hair is losing, so I'll obviously grow bald at some point. And I'm wearing a white shirt and a black pant. So for those of you who are there who might need this information. So just a bit about how we started Atypical Advantage, because I think the question probably is there on the organization culture piece. And I think probably we can use this word called persons with disabilities whenever I see advertising, because post-advertising comes PR. And most of the PR would talk about specially abled, Divyang. So if journalists or even at the advertising fraternity probably corrects this word, because we are here about talking about normalizing things, probably a better word would be people with disabilities, in my view. As such, because I think everyone is different by that sense. So that is the first thing, like whenever I see advertisements, that's there. Why I started Atypical Advantage largely was to bring dignity to people with disabilities in terms of income opportunities, because unless you get money, as Parmesh was also saying, right, it doesn't work at all. And that was the core thought of it. And like we have like over 500 performers, 200 plus artists, 15,000 plus job seekers with disabilities. We work with 170 plus companies. And what we focus largely is to get income opportunities so that they can figure out their lives with money and again be a proud citizen of our country. Coming to specifically in terms of culture, I have seen DEI being driven across multiple functions. What I have also seen especially is like the interconnections between functions here with respect to DEI. I think previously also one of the panel members spoke about it, how you can internally collaborate. And one thing which I've seen the change happening is with the employee resource groups across companies for different segments probably, and that helps to bring awareness in general. And I've seen this with a lot of companies, and what I've seen is great communication in like some of these functions, which was probably not there, like a marketing, HR, PR, so many of these functions talking to each other and having that intent clear, the purpose clear, which is probably was not the case 5 to 10 years down the line. as such. I've even seen advertising being translating into like some of the HR initiatives which companies have been doing. For example, if a company has come out with an advertisement having people with disabilities, they have also made public commitments to increase representation. There was another panel which actually spoke about it, like 45% of Diageo's advertisement have better representation. So that is there, but the major factor probably, especially in this culture, because culture is again a gray area, we need to measure like some of these parameters. For example, for organizations who would not have representation, at least put that in an Excel sheet and say that the representation leads to 0. At least someone in the senior leadership would say that, hey, why is this number 0? And probably we can increase representation in advertising, increase representation in hiring. So that's probably the only way, because if we can't measure it, probably we'll never start our journeys. And I think close integration of culture across various departments within orgs.
Thank you, Vineet. And I think the two things that stuck with me hearing you is one, this aspect of dignity that you talked about. And it is so very important and central to a human's existence, right? And especially with people who are vulnerable, in vulnerable situations, akin, so I just recall this project that I was implementing with manual scavenging community once. And the entire idea was to organize them to leave the occupation. We can't call it profession or occupation. It is banned in Constitution of India. But the fact was that the organizing was around to leave that job even if you do not have income, because this is against central basic human dignity. And I think what you are trying to do, Vinny, through your organization is to create that avenue for people with disabilities to be able to, go for their dignity through providing them those opportunities. But really how the ecosystem is supporting that is something which we need to really look at and work on. And the second point that you talk about is around measurement. I think that is very, very important, because until what not get measured doesn't get translated into any form of change in the organization. So thank you so much for bringing that point. Parmesh, I come to you again. So moving forward, where do you see your organization in terms of DE and D&I agenda in next 5 years? And where does advertising or marketing fit in the scheme of things?
So thanks. Again, as I said earlier, I would really like not just my organization, but every organization in India, right? Whether it's the BSC, certainly in the Nifty 500 or the BSC 500, these are listed companies, but also so many others, really, really understand and unlock the incredible potential of our human capital and create products and services that serve us. So I would really want that to happen. And what we are trying to do is really learn from each other, help each other, partner each other on this journey as well. Some of the things that have worked, right? And so many people ask, this is difficult, this is impossible, but we are looking at what's working and we're trying to share that. Now, Vineet, I'd love if you could share the Nestle factory example that you did recently. And just before that, what Vineet has done is he's enabled an ecosystem in which now the momentum will carry itself forward. When you're working, say, in hiring, I'm just talking about hiring, when you get enough critical mass on ground, then the networks take over. So one of our group companies, Godrej Properties, now has 100 trans people, for example, working across functions. Now we don't need to go out and tell people, because these 100 people who are working are having an incredible time, and we're all telling our friends, come join us, it's a safe space, there's infra, there's facilities. If there are challenges, we're sharing that. So then it's like that. And like that, there are so many exemplars. So what I've envisaged going ahead is that all of us, and through forums like this, really helping and pushing each other to create these exemplars and then sharing this very openly with each other, saying, here's how it happened for me, here's how you can make it happen too, so that we can see those numbers, so that, as Vineet was saying, we can start measuring those and more. Now, 100 in a company of many thousands is, we want more, right? We want 1,000, we want 2,000, and that's for all these intersecting dimensions. But to get that, we need to kind of, I think, over the next few years is build this momentum and share practice. And Vineet, do you want to share a little bit about the Nestle experience, because it's so powerful?
No, sure. Actually, let me just share you, in fact, two small stories, and because this is very relevant to our conversation here. So I was speaking to Tata Steel, and they had hired trans in their mines, and I visited the plant just to see, what's inclusion in practice. And I actually believe that people at the lower strata, the staff, are more sensitive towards D&I than the top. This is my personal experience in meeting so many security guards, because I travel alone on the generosity of strangers across the country and even globally. When I asked the person there who was responsible for the plant that what was the one thing which helped this thing to take off in your thing, and mines are such a difficult piece. And he said that initially the leadership, probably at the top, or wanted all the trans people to be there in, together. What we did is spread the housing across anywhere, and that cultivated the togetherness. And what we did is we started with the toughest role, which was driving the dumpers in their mines. And when people saw that, they can do some of these roles, all the otherness and the challenges which they had vanished. Similarly, another company in Nestle, which was in FMCG, there they had never hired people with disabilities in manufacturing setup. Same biases, most of them thought they'll not be able to do. And what eventually now close to 25 plus people with disabilities are working. And it's like the entire plant has suddenly learned sign language. This was not by design. Most of them organically wanted to learn about it. And the plant head brought his entire family to showcase that work. Like that intent and the purpose was there within the company probably. And like some of this was there in action within that plant, and I was just amazed. So I think intent with some of these actions, and again normalizing some of these things as if it is always there, and there's nothing to glorify about any of these things or demean any of these actions. I think that would be the true change probably we need to look to.
Suela, can I just add about communication, because what you said, I'm actually envisaging, I think the people in this room, brands, agencies, have a critical role to play in defining the discourse of our country growing ahead. What do we want to show, and how we show it is going to be very, very critical in shaping our, hearts and minds going ahead. And I'm seeing more and more, in the previous sessions, we saw some great examples of communication, but I'm seeing, I would like to see more and more, again, as Ashish said, as other people said, stories in which it's almost incidental, in which it's normal, in which it's, in which there's no conflict, because, conflict is such a, like 80s and 90s thing when it comes to minority groups in that sense. Why should there be? So if, with your permission, if I may, can I just show a small 30-second
Yes.
thing that we just did? It wasn't for any particular brand. Our corporate team at Godrej just said, around Bhai Dooj, we just decided to make this small film, literally. Yes. A lot of the people in the team were from the LGBTQ community, and of course, certainly the main protagonist and so on, but with your permission, I can just show it.
चलो अब चाय पी के जल्दी से रेडी हो जाओ, आज हमारे घर की पहली भाई दूज है।
हाँ बाबा।
जल्दी। सब जगह पे मिस करके रखता है। उठ जा।
हाँ माँ।
आज पहली भाई दूज है ना? उठ।
हाँ माँ, उठ रहा हूँ यार।
तो कब से बोल? तैयार भी हो गए? बहुत खूबसूरत लग रहे हो। चलो आरती के लिए रेडी हो जाओ। अरे आइए 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 आइए।
हेलो।
हैप्पी दिवाली।
हैप्पी दिवाली।
कैसी हो बेटी?
फाइनली माई सेल्फ।
अरे दीदी कितनी देर कर दी।
कुछ चीज़ें समझने में देर लगती है। देर से ही सही, आज हम हमारी पहली भाई दूज मना रहे हैं। रिवाजों से रिश्ते नहीं बनते, हम रिश्तों से रिवाज बनाते हैं।
So again, it was just we made very quickly, but with participation from the community. And my point is, I think those days of having, say with queer people, for example, or with, really having that point, the plot point should never be now any, I don't see, going ahead because I'm really fed up of that. Pen is not accepting and then that's the dilemma or this or that, right? So I see communication in which that's like very like 20, 30 years ago. I see like communication which is nuanced, in which acceptance is the norm, in which we are showing, people from various intersecting, abilities and parts of life, living lives in various ways and flourishing. So that's the kind of communication that I would like to see, because when we see that and when we normalize that, and when that is laid onto all the other work which is happening, which is jobs, opportunities, products, that's how we're going to move into this comprehensively better society as well. So yeah.
No, of course, and which also gives us a this indication that what we are doing today is very right. I mean, this coming together and sharing the good work that is already being done, and we congratulate ASCII to put this together, of course, and look forward to continuing this conversation. But I think we are left with 9 minutes. We just have last round of questions with each one of you. So Liz, how does D&I enable innovation in product development, delivery and communication? And do you think that technology can play a role in this as well?
So I think technology can be very powerful. I don't know if you'll have seen the India Invited commercial. I would ask you to play it. Was born. It said, no matter what your background is, who you are, where you come from, whatever your economic background, whatever your religion, whoever you are invited. And I think that's a social, we also sought social change. We thought we should nudge that very, very liberated, open feeling within a bank. And I would request the AV to be played, please, because I think it's really self-explanatory.
जिंदगी के सफर में लोग कदम कदम पे हमें जज करते हैं। ये अतरंगी, ये क्या एक्टिंग करेगा? अब इसी नाप तोल के चक्कर में कई दरवाजे खुलने से पहले ही बंद हो जाते हैं। मैडम, सिंगल लेडीज को मैं किराएदार रखूंगा तो सोसाइटी मुझे रेड लाइट दिखा देगी। You know, we'd love to hire you, but we feel it'll make our customers a bit uncomfortable. शादी और इससे अंधी हूं क्या? अफसोस कि लोग ये जांचते हैं कि आपका सर किसके सामने झुकता है, आप कहां से आए हैं, किस खानदान से हैं, कमाते कितना है। काश जिंदगी में सब इस बेंच की तरह होते हैं, सबके लिए एक समान। ये बैठने वाले से उसकी उम्र, जात, पात, औकात, रंग, रूप, वेश, भाषा कुछ नहीं पूछती। बिल्कुल कोटा केट 11 की तरह। ये भी आपसे कुछ नहीं पूछता, बस एक सवाल पूछता है कि आप इंडियन हैं, और अगर आप हैं तो आपका स्वागत है।
Thank you. Vineet, what is the one thing that you would like to tell Indian advertisers about including diverse individuals in their teams and on screen?
This is a great question, and I don't know how many of you have seen my Shark Tank pitch. Like one thing, as soon as I was putting the application to Shark Tank, I knew I would be there on the main stage, but my problem was not that. My problem was with some of the reality TV shows, which would have shown people with disabilities from a purely sympathetic lens, not focusing on their abilities, but focusing more on some of the things. And if you look at how Bollywood portrays people with disabilities, right? Like instead of showing a confident blind person using a screen reader on the computer, they would probably show something which actually does not make the change happen in any ways, or and probably same way with advertising. So when I was entering the sets of Shark Tank, they thought that, hey, how have you come alone? I said, I am founder of a company, and that is why I've come. They don't worry, we'll help you with the pitch. I said, pitch मैं लिख के लाया हूँ. They heard my pitch, and then they said, oh, इसको कुछ ज़रूरत नहीं है. And then obviously the pitch turned out to be great in front of the TV audiences, and it was received very well. What I need to tell like the advertising community is, I think as Manto says, right, हम लोग समाज के आईने हैं. We are the mirrors to the society, and we have that responsibility to tell the world probably of the capabilities of people with disabilities in a respectful manner, which probably I believe very few brands do that. Taking an emotional cue, again, there are no cues because at the end, we are all Indians, and Indians are emotional by nature. But the point here is that if we also show the other side, that people with disabilities can be lawyers, scientists, financiers, in great business schools, professors, that is what probably we need to show. Why? Because it will give hope to millions of people with disabilities and millions of people in the marginalized community, that if education is the equalizer, we can also reach the top. And as previously mentioned, I think technology is a great leveler. Before 10 years back, probably I would not have imagined starting my own company and handling so many functions on my own using a screen reader as such. And same way, it is, again, my brother is also blind, and he might not have even dreamt of becoming an investment banker. So I think anything is possible with the support of technology. What advertising needs to do is spread that awareness of equality in the truest sense possible. And a very cool hack, when I was in retail, we did some of our ads in sign language, and the virality which it received and the audience appreciation from deaf consumers was amazing. So that's a cool hack if advertising guys want to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Parmesh, last word to you. What is the one lesson on your organization's D&I journey that you would like to give to somebody who is just starting up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, allocate budgets. I mean, it goes back to that. You can't give it, you can't make DI, that one woman in the team, you can't say, you also do DI and make it a stretch goal, huh? Or you have one disabled person, you say, you also do this. I mean, money talks. I mean, if you really care about it, I mean, you don't give finance to that, right? You say, yeah, you can handle, you know how to do maths. Okay, you do finance also. Or marketing or any of that, right? You hire people in that space, you give them budgets, you give them teams, you set goals, you create an ecosystem. I mean, if you're doing this for other functions, then why the hell shouldn't you do it? If you are claiming that all these other things, that these are your customers, these are this, then you need to hire. You can't reach out to Vineet and say, give me some interesting disabled candidate or persons with disabilities, but I'm not going to pay you, right? I mean, Vineet runs a consulting firm. You should pay him first. Likewise for everything else. So if there's one message to everyone in the room, brands, agencies, anyone who cares about this, open your wallets. You will multiply it, you will multiply your investments multifold, but first you've got to make it, okay? Yeah.
No, thank you so much. And on that point, I know that how driven you are towards money. You have brought this up, but really,
Have you got some? Have you got some?
No, but thank you so much, all. And I think it was very, very interesting insights from all of you. And I do believe that all of you enjoyed the panel as well. I think 3 key takeaways: walk the talk, make money available, and care for diversity, dignity and respect of each and every individual. So thank you so much, and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.